scale in and scale out with whatever we're going to be deploying at the edge location, looking at edge computing, then it's also going to ensure that the users at these locations, they have seamless service, because from a infrastructure point of view, from a technology point of view, what your customer wants is availability. I want a solution that is scalable, right? And I think edge computing, when you look at modern POSs and ATM, they support, that capability whereby you can have the capacity to actually scale in and scale out with regards to the large transaction volumes you might be getting from these remote locations.
Thank you very much for that beautiful addition to what we have had. With regards to the power infrastructure networking, we also like to look at the volume of the transaction, and of course the issue of scalability has to be very, very considered when we are talking about the infrastructure. Thank you very much. Mr. Julia, I will be asking you concerning the security this time around. All right, how can edge cloud computing or edge computing architecture specifically enable secured real-time fraud detection, particularly at the point of transaction?
So, edge computing, as mentioned, and the data locally and collecting data at your data center. And the cost of that transaction needs to be calculated. So, and the security between that area as well.
The security between them.
So you need to ensure that devices are fully encrypted, but also you need to also be able to enable offline authentication. So if your connectivity does drop, you still need to have a backup system to ensure that you can still continue transacting, because that is going to be the biggest downfall of that. So we are able to encapsulate and secure each transaction on the device, similar devices to what I've got here with us today, these ones. Yeah. But these are also got tamper switches and accelerometers. Now what that means, if I remove this from its wall or where it is, it locks the data, secures the information, and removes the encryption keys. That's why this becomes unusable anyway. So you got to make sure that your hardware, as well as your software, is 100% secure. Because if it is not secure in a banking environment, it does two things. It puts the bank at risk, and it puts the user at risk. So it's very important to understand the encryption methodologies at the edge to ensure that you encrypting your data that is being transferred and the data that is being stored and authenticated.
Thank you very much for that beautiful summary on how do we ensure that it's security. It's talking about our infrastructure. I mentioned that it has to be fully encrypted, particularly at the edge. The backup also, and all of the hardware and software should be fully secured, and that's give us seamless and real-time prevention against fraud. Yep. Thank you very much for that beautiful answer. Let me go to Mr. Rafael Adaka as well. Yeah. In what way is edge computing improve infrastructure resilience, e.g. during network? Yeah, because you mentioned about edge computing the other time. So in what way is this can improve the infrastructure?
Okay, so from...
Of course, you have mentioned infrastructure the other time. Yeah. So in what way can cloud or edge computing improve those infrastructure, particularly the network, particularly what you have mentioned earlier as regard the power as well? So in what way?
So looking at edge computing, yes, right, to improve infrastructure resilience, I think you already touched more about it from his submission, because you need to start looking at, from an edge perspective, how can I also process data, locally, without having to go centrally to my, my compute locations. And then it also gives you the capability to also ensure that you can also have local compute locations within your own localized, edge computing environment. And you also have the capability to also do what is called distributed computing. So what it does is that I have options, right? If there is a problem with maybe link failures and all that, how can I continue to process transactions locally, right? Now, if I also have, things around he spoke about, data security and all that. I also think one of the things it also does is that with your encryption algorithms, it also helps you comply to the local compliance standards. Today, we see that NDPR is something that the government is constantly, speaking to and talking about. It ensures that organizations, while you try to transform digitally, because the truth is, data transformation has come to stay. It's either we embrace it or we walk away from it. And I can tell you, most of your competitors today, right, are already there. And with the bottlenecks we see in most big organizations, whereby, people don't have the capability to scale, they don't have the capability to think, right? Even if you have ideas that you want to come up with, there are lots of bureaucracies around that, right? So my submission here is that with edge computing, you can actually do local processing of data. You have the capability also of offload data into a distributed, processing unit, and it helps reduce issues around, failed transaction, latencies here and there. And then it also ensures that you are compliant, because you don't want to start something today and then the regulators come for you, right? So with all of the encryption that is being done on, at the edge, from the compute perspective, it also puts you at peace that the regulators, CBN and, NDPRA, they don't come after you and all that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, let me come to the issue of regulatory compliance now, and that goes to Dr. Krishna. What emerging technology or framework are most promising for maintaining data security and regulatory compliance as banks now move from the legacy to the mobile banking? What are the emerging technology or framework that are most promising for maintaining data security now that bank move from the operation shift towards distributed edge environment now?
See, when the data is getting migrated, of course, let's look at the channels, correct? Okay, we have moved from a manual banking, old ledger books, to at least moved into computers, Then, of course, now we are talking about a bit more advanced. Okay, we are moving into, based on CBN's regulations, data centers has come in place. So you need to have a primary, as far as bank is concerned, in a data center or into a cloud. Rightly mentioned by him, various data protection acts, whether it is NDPC or from Ghana, whatever is that, every country has a data protection law which is getting enforced. So if you look at all the thread, the part of security becomes imminent, which we need to put it in place, means the banks need to put that aspect in place, correct? Okay, various security solutions are available in place. It need to be implemented properly. But at the same time, there's a bit of flip side here. Whatever the best security solution we implement, there's a human factor. That is 0.001%, which always hampers. And that becomes a key element in any kind of migration or process or anything, because at the end of the day, it's a human. Even if we can sit and debate, AI has come in, so everything can be automated. No, it will still we have a human element there. Correct. So those are the areas any bank or any organization need to look multiple times. That which indirectly means, whenever you are even migrating data, there are multiple checkpoints need to be put in place, multiple authorization need to be put in place, so that at least, the owners of the data as well as the users feel it is well secured. Now, for example, let's see, especially from any of the African countries, when we try to operate or access certain portals abroad, of course, you are getting locked out. You are getting kicked out, saying that the IP is blocked.
Yeah.
Correct. So this is one of the measures. When it is an African IP, they will think 10 times.
Let me come in to that, please. We've often seen most cases of what we've mentioned as regarding IPs, African countries. What can we do to ensure this is a bit minimized, to ensure that at least we have access to information?
It's a process, correct? It's a process, understanding of the criticality of the issues. There are two factors. One is a process. Whether it is manual, let's go back to the old times, maybe 30 years back. We go to a bank, present a check. What they do? They open a folio, check whether you have the balance or not. Okay, the balance is checked or ticked. Balance is available. Somebody else's verify your signature. Okay, then the payment comes in. The same process is already there in an automated way. Correct? So in some places it's a bit liberal as long as you know the people very well. In some places we go through everything. If you need to walk into a banking call, okay, you give your BVN, so thumb impression or biometrics is taken before giving you the cash, or any transaction is being done, processed properly. So there are check and points in place. The fact is that, that human element is always a negative factor, and which we can't avoid it. The way to minimize this threat is that focus more on the positive side of the thing and do what you need to do in the right way.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me go to Raphael Adaka.
I'm Raphael.
Okay. I'm going to Gilda.
Yes.
Please, how can we minimize this human error that he has rightly mentioned?
So, human error is one of those things, and it's
even as 1%, as low as that.
Yeah.
How can we do around it to minimize?
I'm going to say the word that everybody's going to say, don't do it. But we can use noded AI. In other words, you're taking multiple nodes that do self-checking and start putting that in place, where AI will do the check and balance on the accounts. And this has been done for years. It's just becoming more prevalent in the banking society, especially if you're working in a concrete and mortar environment that's not there anymore. Remember, we're going away from branches. We're going into the rural areas where we've got to ensure that the infrastructure is working, which we've already discussed. So the only way that we're going to get rid of that human error factor is to go to AI and use it for error and checking.
So you have to leverage on AI at least to reduce human error.
100%.
That will be fine. Thank you very much. Let me go back to Raphael. I know you are from First Bank. I was there with Madam some years ago. So I want to ask this question, particularly with regards to the talent gap. What's the talent gap look like for building and maintaining edge-enabled banking system as you upskilling internal system or partnering externally? There is a knowledge gap there. How do we manage that?
Okay, so the first thing is, speaking about technology today, it centers around people, process, and technology. And the good thing about it is that from a digital transformational perspective, we need those three components. You need people, you need process, you need technology. Now we have
people, process, and technology.
Yes. So now you have technology, you have processes, and then you're having issues with people. Yep. Now, one of the things you can do is partnering. You can actually partner with third parties to ensure that you have the right skill set. The biggest challenge we have today in Africa is the Japa syndrome, right? And I'm not saying it doesn't mean you shouldn't train your employees. You train them because they're going to carry out XYZ function. So it's important that you train people, but how do you manage things around the higher attrition rates that we see today from a technology perspective? Yeah. One of the things that can be done is streamlining your processes as an organization. I see a lot of organizations today have a lot of manual and repetitive processes. These can be automated, right? So the moment you automate those processes...
So that will reduce the knowledge gap?
Not necessarily,
all right,
because at this point you are looking at providing services to your customers, right? You don't want the human, the shortfall with regards to skill set be a problem.
Yeah.
Now, the moment you automate these processes, what it does for you as an organization is that it frees up all the manual and repetitive tasks that your employees come to do daily. Now, once these processes are automated, you can now start reposing people to actually carry out other functions. Now, the reason why people leave, and that's why we same thing over and over again in the last 2 years. So the moment you can pick out processes that are legitimate and then automate them using automation tools, right, it gives you the opportunity to repurpose your employee. One of the challenges with doing the AI way that data into AI tools, LLMs, and the likes, and we don't have visibility from a data sovereignty perspective. We don't know where this data resides. Just imagine an employee of yours uploads data to analyze, and then he uploads that data on an AI tool, right? He's been able to interpret that data, present it to the board, and I think it's we would always see it. People would always leave. You need to be able to incorporate automation tools. We need to be able to have teams that can collaborate effectively to get the job done, right? And then we can't stop training people, whether they leave or not. We need to get a job done, and we have timelines to have that done. So again, you can't stop people from leaving. We need to automate tools. We need to automate our processes. And then we need to also partner. We need to have great partnership, right, with third parties and all of that. I know they come with their own level of risks, but you can also quantify that risk, going forward before you venture into that level of partnership. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And that will assist us in the area of how the knowledge gap look like, having trained our people, the process and technology involved as well. All right, Mr. Julian, please you help us with this question. Now that we're talking about banking at edge, faster, smarter delivery, how do you measure return on investment or performance gain from edge deployments? Yeah.
Okay, so return on investment is how many transactions you can perform. Yeah. So if the bank is doing 1,000 transactions a minute, is that a lot? Mm-hmm. It sounds like a lot, right?
Yeah.
But it's not. How many people in this area? I'll just say just Lagos, for example. How many people in Lagos? So you got to think now, every second person might be doing a transaction. So we are talking about not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, we're talking about millions. Yeah. So the faster you can transact, and me as a user, if I can make a payment quickly, and it goes through quickly, I will make more transactions using the same bank once again, because they've showed speed, they've shown efficiency, and for the bank, it pays it off. So if you are investing in that infrastructure with more cores, with more memory, more storage, offline transactions, you can easily say, listen here, if we're doing double the transactions a day, we are paying that off in lesser time. So in other words, you get to a place where your return on investment is shortened because you've invested on something that is fast. If you've got slow, older technology, and there's companies out there that are running devices, I'm going to say 4 years and older, will have issues because the transacting power of the new devices is almost 100% more than what it was 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. So if they aren't updating their infrastructure to the latest, keeping in mind that we have got this AI. So neural processing units are doing a lot more as well from a computational background, low power. So as soon as you can do more transactions, your return on investment becomes so much more important. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That leveraging on that edge computing definitely return on investments. Thank you very much. Let me go to
Can I add to that. Just to add to it, I put down some notes.
Yeah.
We spoke about, for you to measure your return on investment, one of the things you can also do is, I want to have zero failure rates, right? So how many times do I have failures, transaction failures? And secondly is that what are my success rates, right?
So
how often are my transactions successful?
Okay.
And then thirdly, you need to also look at, cost reduction. Now, if you're looking at compute edge, which are going to be deployed into areas where you have low bandwidth and all that, it means that I'm also going to be reducing my costs with regards to links, right? Because at those edge locations, I probably will not have the capability to run MPLSs there, lease lines there, right? Especially if we're talking about POSs, right? So cost reduction from a SIM card perspective, it also reduces your cost as an organization. So you could measure those, you could use that as a way to measure your ROI. Then I think lastly is also zero dispute.
So what?
Zero dispute.
Okay.
How often do I have disputes from every transaction, right? So you want to also be able to minimize that. So these are ways in which you can actually, maximize your ROI from, investing in edge compute.
Okay, thank you very much. Looking at return on investment, talking about zero failures, the success rate as well, cost reduction, and of course, zero disputes. So these are the things we put together to measure our return on investment. All right, Krishna, am I right? As a solution architect, this question is 3-1. So I want to break it down. It's 3-1. So we have to ask one after the other. One, our legacy core banking system, our legacy banking system as it's now, we call them the legacy banking system. Are they compatible with edge architecture? If yes, to what level? 3, what integration challenge can you perceive and how can they solve this? I'm sorry I said this question is about 3-1. Maybe I have to come again so I can pick this one after the other. Said, are legacy core banking system compatible with edge architecture? As a solution architect, let's answer that. If yes, to what level? I'm sorry.
The legacy core banking, I don't think it is compatible with any edge or any cloud as of now. But some of them are migrating it, some of them are doing it actually. Let's take some good names. Finacle, I think, from the legacy thing, they're moving into cloud completely. So that means the fundamental still remains the same. The data flow and everything still remains the same. The technology, of course, changes a bit. The question remains very simple. Can a diesel car run on maybe CNG? Correct. So that is the issue all about. It doesn't run this problem. So, correct. The same applicable across sectors. So legacy core banking will not work on the edge or on the cloud.
I want Mr. Ravel to have a perspective. I want to have a perspective on this issue.
Okay, so it depends on the infrastructure. Well, it depends on what is legacy. It depends on, speaking about banking application, yes, it might not be compatible. But if you are speaking to edge computing, right, I think it can be done in a way whereby you can use APIs, right, to integrate from the legacy system into the compute, the newer system. So with API, yes, it's sort of possible, but
can you point out some of the integration problem that might encounter during trying to for the core?
Yes, so legacy? Part of the integration problems that you might come across would be security, right? So if you speak from a legacy or more modern and more resilient, you need to look at right. You want to monitor that transaction flow from a security perspective. Because the truth is, just put it this way, I have an API integrated to himself. It's just like a pipe that allows me access his data, right? If I don't have security in that, whatever he sends to me, right? Remember, it's garbage in, garbage out. Whatever he sends to me, malicious or not, I will take it. I will receive it.
Yeah.
So, but if you factor in security into that integration, it gives me the capability to have visibility, real time, into what he's sending to me. And then it also even helps you enforce a zero trust architecture in such a way that I trust him because he's a partner, right? I'm integrating to him via API, but again, trust but verify. So I want to be very sure because somebody else might sit behind that endpoint, that node, and try to also do something malicious to me, right? So part of the challenges there is security.
Okay.
And
so from your perspective, the integration of the legacy core banking is
it's seamless. It can be done.
It can be done.
Yeah. But you also need to have visibility from a security perspective.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me go to Mr. Julian once again. I come to you. Now, in what way is edge computing improve infrastructure resilience? Talking about infrastructure has to be resilience there. In what way can this edge or cloud computing improve infrastructure?
Okay, so
particularly, for example, during work outage now.
yeah, so infrastructure resilience, and I actually made notes on this one because I'm looking at what's happening around the world at the moment with these undersea cable cuts, where the people are actually doing malicious damage to undersea cables around the world.
Yeah.
You know, this is causing a lot of instability, especially in the banking, because the SWIFT system works on undersea cables. So what you need to do is maintain your transaction continuity by enabling your edge nodes on autonomously during the regional cloud outages. So your edge nodes will now continue to operate offline while these outages are happening, and you'll be able to then continue once the outage has been resolved. So the devices have been built to be resilient. They've got to have failover and they've got to have backup. So if one node fails, the second node will continue by itself as well. So once again, reliability in your infrastructure. Get a partner that sells equipment that has a zero failure rate. So that is very important.
Thank you very much for that analysis. Before we move on to the audience to ask one or two questions, back to Mr. Raphael. What's the biggest misconception banks have about this edge computing? Yes.
So to me, people don't like to try out new things. Mm-hmm. People will tell you.
People don't like to try new things.
Yes.
Whereas trying new things will give us more innovation.
More value, yeah, more innovation. Yeah, people are not so used to change. You know, you often hear, don't fix it until it's broken. But so for me, what I would say is try it, right? Test it. And
try it again. Test it.
And try it again.
And try it again.
Yes.
And that will break the misconception.
Yes.
All right. Before I come back to wrap it up, I want the audience, the next question, I want a clarification on what has been discussed so far on banking at the edge, faster, smarter delivery while leveraging on cloud edge and embedded system. You are free to come out to ask and clarify before we ramp up this particular session.
So if you have any question, please signify by raising your hands. We don't want to waste any time. Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have any other question? Do you have any?
Somebody's there raising up his another person.
Do we have any other person apart from him? Okay, thank you. Introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Nuruddin Alabi from AB Microfinance Bank. So my question is, looking at edge computing, and you talk about less internet area allocation. So how do you manage that way, one way or the other, because of the fact that you have offline, you can do offline transaction, and it can actually move the institution be able to manage that? Then the second question is the adoption of hosting your core banking application on cloud in terms of regulatory requirements. Of course, we have local data center now, but because everybody and those local data center cannot actually are completely embedded with the AI technology. So how can one be able to balance those two? Thank you.
Okay, I think Mr. Ravel can respond to that question.
Okay, so first thing is looking at it from a CIA trad, you're looking at confidentiality, integrity, and availability of that data, right, or the service. But one of the things with edge computing devices, one of the things they've done is that they've built systems that are resilient, right? They've built systems that can scale. And then embedded in that, they also have some security features that even helps with geotagging, right? So today I know CBN has a policy that says, I want to know the locations of all my POS terminals, right? Now, so with edge compute device, you have that capability whereby locations of every terminal, right, can be tagged. So if you try to maybe do a SIM swap, it creates an incident whereby the regulator can see that this person has changed a SIM card. If you try to move from one location to another, that visibility is now available.
Yeah.
Right. So you can actually be tracked. Because one of the things we see today is, and a lot of kidnappers use this, get somebody, hold them down for ransom, because with POS transactions, they're not like ATM transactions whereby if you go to an ATM terminal today, if I really want to investigate further, I can actually, from the ATM terminal, get the picture of who carried out that transaction. But with POS, that's a risk. So you go to a POS terminal operator today and tell the person, I want to withdraw 1 million naira. If they have 1 million naira cash with them there, they will withdraw it to you.
Yeah.
Even if you're using someone else's card.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you have the PIN and you can do anything. So what most criminals would do is, I hold him for ransom. I have other criminals in my custody. I transfer money from the account to another account, from that account to another guy's card account, and then use that guy's card, who is also in my custody, with his PIN to go to a POS location to withdraw money. Now, before CBN created the policy around geotagging, it was difficult because people moved terminals from one place to another. But with geotagging in place now as a law, right, and with edge compute devices, having that capability to specify your location, then I think that risk has been addressed and eliminated. Thank you.
Hope that has answered the questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Biodun Adewoye from Palo Alto. Just to reiterate one of the questions that was raised with regards to knowledge gap, in our environment. And I think in mitigating that, organizations need to collaborate and partner. And in doing that, you need to be sure of the quality of partnership and the quality of the team you are collaborating with your service. Lastly, organization needs to keep training the existing staff. So not because some are leaving, you want to say, no, you don't want to train them again because they will still leave. Either way, they will still leave. Whether you train them, they will leave. If you don't train them, they will still leave. And where they are going to be trained better than your own place. So, but in order to keep your environment going, they still need to learn. So that training is still essential. Because, the day we stop learning, that day we do what? We die. So learning is continuum in life. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much.
Learning is continuous, and you have to continue training people.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if, can I sit or can I take a position?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. My name is Tex Monda, and the earlier part, the CTO for FSDH Merchant Bank. I've heard the contributions from the panel, but it's safe to say that we need to also differentiate between network orchestration and edge computing. Edge computing in this case, what we are talking about, would talk about getting access to data from a nearby source. So in this
Yeah.
case, you're reducing latency.
Yes.
But at the point
Reducing
where you
latency.
talk about network orchestration, you need a system in place where you're able to move between a stable network from one stable network to the other. That's where we talk about that. Now, I've heard the various submissions. And then when we talk about POSs, when you have your various POS, and you talk about edge computing, now, you want to be able to carry out transactions even when you have a field, when there's no network to carry out transactions.
So there's a
Yes.
network. Just want
On
to
the
carry
pro-
out your transaction.
Exactly. Now, take for instance, I need, if we could speak to that. Take for instance, a card transaction that is carried out on a POS. There is no network POS. And for some reason, it's able to carry out this transaction continuously, right? Now, one of the processes for card payment is that at the time you input in your card, you put all of the required information. What it does is an auth process that takes place, or a sales process that takes place. What it does within that period is to go to the bank where the card is originated from, and then get the balance of your what's present in your bank account, and ensure that money you are currently taking out does match what you are taking out. So you have enough to actually process that handles all of the payment and all the various charges that comes along that card transaction. Now, for instance, if we want to do this, we know these systems could only speak to themselves when there is adequate network to have this kind of conversations or have this kind of interactions. At what point do we say that the banks will be able to carry out effectively when it comes to where, no network on the system, and then such transactions will fly across your...
I think Dr. Krishna's response to that.
I can answer something on that. So in terms of, I'm going to take a supermarket, for example. They get a number of lists from banks every morning that they bank with on what they call hot cards, cards that have stolen, cards that have been reported stolen, cards that are fraudulent. And what they do is, first thing every morning, they download that big database to a local network in the store. So if the network that's going out goes down, they've still got that list locally in the store. The same thing is that, do you buy from the same store all the time? You're always changing. How many people don't do that? How many people use the same store? How many people are shopping online now as opposed to shopping from a store? Yeah, so brick and mortar is gone. People are going onto their phones, they're going to the app. Now that all gets done from a virtual place. So your shopping center, if you go there often, already has your record. They know. We were just saying banks predict what people are going to do. When you change that pattern, so a friend of mine is in forensics, and they can predict, for example, when a couple's going to have a divorce before they have the divorce. Because all of a sudden, the husband is now shopping at high-end jewelry stores up the road, and he's not buying from the normal place. He's then got a hotel on the other side of town. He's never been there before. So this is what is analyzed. You can see, well, hang on, there's something happening here. And this happens in real time. A lot of transactions now are already being done offline, unless it is a ridiculous amount, like I said, a large amount of money. Because your groceries are 50, 60, 70, 120, 200,000, 300,000 naira. The bank that's okay. They're worried about the 1 million, 2 million, 3 million transactions. So most of those small transactions, they will have a clearance to a point, and the bank's okay with it. Another thing with about the kidnapping and that as well. So what's been happening in South Africa now, people will approach you, or say, give me your phone, transfer money. Mm-hmm. So what our banks have implemented now is you can put your PIN code in, mm-hmm. and it'll give them the money. But you've got two PIN codes. Mm-hmm. One is a good one. That means they're not going to trace you. The second one, that PIN code, and if you put it in, it'll do the transaction, it'll give them their money, but the alerts go off at the bank to say, this has happened now. Mm-hmm. Real time.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of protection in place because it's happening more and more. So I hope that helps.
Thank you very much for that beautiful submission. I really enjoy you for that. For your parting word, because time has really gone, I want Mr. Judah please give your parting words on this particular topic, banking at the edge, faster and smarter delivery. Your parting words, please.
So overall, get technology which is robust, resilient, self-healing, all the stuff that we spoke about, and obviously that it's got good support. Get a partner involved that does that. And I'm going to give my little punt now because I'm here from Lenovo. We are at the end there. You're welcome to come to the stand, speak to myself and my colleagues about these solutions which we have in place, and obviously with our partners as well. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Mr. Krishna, please give us your passing words. Thank you very much for coming.
What I can say is that change is inevitable, correct? From books to folios to data centers to cloud. So what all matters is adapt the technology, go along with it, go along with the change in a secured way.
Thank you very much. Mr. Raphael, you can wrap it up from your point
Okay, so for me, I would say continuous learning. We need to embrace innovation, right? Because if we don't innovate, we'll die, right? And then secondly, security shouldn't be an afterthought, right? Because what we see these days is that people set up systems and then nobody really talks about security till it compromises. Thank you.
So thank you very much. So we have to take cognizance of security, and we should also embrace learning, continuous learning, and leveraging on this edge and cloud computing to have a very good resilience, robust, and seamless transaction. Thank you very much for coming.
Okay, please, let's give them a round of applause, please. A very big one. Thank you very much. I'm very sure we have learned one or two things from banking at the edge. So please, we're going to take pictures for you. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you can go ahead and take them. So we've learned digital transformation has come to stay. For that, a video will be played right now. So please play the video. Then also, they still launch at the Edge Room. We'll be running all the programs. We just have two panels to run through. Then we go for the launch. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. Can we have the video now?
So what generative AI has done, and most specifically ChatGPT and the likes, is democratization of what artificial intelligence is and making people understand what it is.
Any tech innovation must include the customer, must include customer experience excellence. The customer must be at the center.
The future is not coming, the future is here. And at the year ahead, 2025 is where that vision meets reality.
In AI is 20% more accurate, but AI alone is 30% more. But the question is, if there is a medical legal case, who is answering?
So data should amplify and not overshadow your leadership when it comes to doing this.
So if you don't act now, you'll be what? Somebody will force you to act.
The takeaway today is amazing because we've covered cybersecurity in another level. And above all, we've also covered AI so deep in the sense that I think in the future we no longer need passwords for security reasons, we hand over everything to AI.
I have a prediction that institutions of higher learning or institutions like Go My Code ourselves, we will start focusing on the pertinent key skill of making sure that everybody is able to learn cybersecurity and even areas of ethics around cybersecurity.
Okay, so for the fireside chat, as we all know, we all transact through our bank apps these days. Technology has gone beyond we go into the bank. So for this section, we're going to be talking how smart banking can move from being smarter to succeeding. So for now, the bank apps are smart. We can all see that they are smart, but how can they move from being smart to succeeding in the technology landscape? So for this section, fireside chat, we're going to be having our panelist, Mr. Paul Ehiagbonare, the Chief Digital Officer for ASEAN MFB. Please, can you jam those together for him, please? You can come on, sir. Please keep jamming those hands together. You can have your seat, sir. Thank you very much. And for this session, the moderator will be Olubunmi Odewale, HR consultant. Please jam those hands together for our please. Are we tired? Jam those hands together. I think it's getting more interesting now, so I'm very sure we are going to have a swell time as well. Thank you very much. Welcome. Ma, you can sit down here, ma. Thank you. There's a mic there. Okay, so we're going to have 20 minutes for this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope we all have an exciting time this day. And I want to thank you, all the audience, for staying since morning till this time. I'm sure we have a lot of people here from the banks, the fintech, and also technology people here this afternoon. And I also want to thank all the panelists and sponsors and also the organizers, DX5, for putting this together. I'm an HR consultant, but I've been listening to everything you guys have been saying, and it's very, very insightful. So today, we're going to be doing something in this segment, and it's just to unpack some of the things we've been talking about here, which is centered around smart banking. We want to look at how we can look at this product, the smart banking products. How do we convert them, make them create values for our businesses, and also look at the things that are restricting the adoption of digital services in Nigeria, and also looking at how do we turn this financial intelligence that we see from big data to street data. So today I have with me on this fireside chat, we don't have a fire though, but we have light. All right, so I have with me Paul Ehiagbonare. He's the Chief Digital Officer for ASEAN Microfinance Bank. He's leading the major digital transformation for the bank, and he has done a lot of things for the bank. In the recent years, he's joined them. I would also like to mention that he was formerly working with a payment service bank, which is Nine Mobile, we all know, and he actually did a transformation there by building the whole bank services from scratch, indigenous product, for the bank. And then also he has he has worked also in the power sector for a company, Sahara Group, where he had actually done an enterprise-wide transformation initiatives for them, which is currently working today for Ikeja Electric and even the company at large. He's also a recognized expert in AI and machine learning. He has a book he's written on AI playbook for business leaders. And I know if you grab that copy, you'll probably be speaking AI and machine learning languages easily. So thank you so much, Paul, for joining us this hour. And I'll be having some questions that I'll be asking you. You're welcome. And please, the audience, I would like you to please pencil down some of your questions that you'd like to ask him as well, so that we do it, we don't do it one-sided. You're also part of this conversation. So thank you all for waiting till this time, and then I'll start as the moderator for this segment. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. I would like to ask you, Paul, one question is, beyond the app, we're talking beyond the app. What does it mean in practice for a financial institution like ASEAN Microfinance Bank?
Yeah, so slickness, doesn't necessarily mean relevance.
Okay.
That's what it means. And so you have to look beyond a good-looking UI to actually what matters. And so when we say beyond the app, that's essentially what we mean. Go from UI to value, to relevance, to what is really what really matters to the people who will be using the platform.
Okay, so now, what is how do you balance the tension between a sleek UI design and accessibility to the customer's realities? Because we know, yes, banks are developing this digital banking app, and we're saying we need to be smart. We're talking about smart. So how do you balance this tension of the sleek UI design and then, the realities of your customers?
Okay, so it comes down to intentionality, and this is on 3 pillars. First, you have to build a platform that is, one, adaptive, that will be adaptable to their locally relevant realities. That's one. The second one is resilience. We have infrastructure challenges in the country, power issues there, broadband connectivity issues there, so you have to build for resilience. That's one. And then 3, local relevance. You have to build what really works for them. Okay. And a particular example is, because there's a serious trust issue, which I'll speak on probably more on, which you also need to deal with. So in terms of local challenge or local context, there's a serious trust issue in the financial sector. And so when you build, you have to build with trust in mind, with trust at the forefront. People need to trust your platform to have the confidence to use the platform.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul, for that. So in your view, you're saying that the adoption of digital services in Nigeria today is on trust. I thought It was affordability or financial literacy.
So it's in layers. Trust is the most, the strongest one. Affordability is there. Then also digital literacy is there. Now, if I'll start with trust, why trust? Part of what our bank does is to organize yearly what we call the annual financial inclusion seminar. And we bring people from Balogun Market. We bring people from CBN. We bring people, policymakers, fintech players, industry leaders. And we have this conversation. And it was surprising to hear a woman from Balogun Market saying, you people build this platform. You people send us SMS. We don't want to touch it. If I click that SMS, they will wipe my account. Real life feedback. Right? And what changed the game today? If you go to one of those merchants and you want to make a payment and you do a transfer to their POS, it beeps, right? When it beeps, it also prints out the receipt. I can tell you now, they trust that sound more than they trust SMS. So if you send or transfer that payment to them, the moment they hear that beep, forget SMS. They don't care about SMS. Because they've had serious trust issues, because people will send fake SMS and collect goods. And that single sound from POS terminal solved that problem. So that's part of the issue of trust that we have there. The other part is the digital literacy part. We build solutions that they don't understand. And many of these people are not educated to the level of those who are building the solutions for them. And so you build a platform that they don't understand, and then you expect adoption. Adoption will not happen that way. So you have to build for what works for them. And 2 things always work for them: sight and sound. natural inherent capabilities that God has given all of us. They only need to hear the sound of the POS to know that the transfer was successful. They only need to see the receipt printed to say, yes, I have confidence in this transaction. I'm not looking at SMS. I'm not waiting to even check if the funds have actually reflected in their account. So that takes care of the digital literacy challenge, even though we need to educate them more. But there's so much you can do in terms of educating someone who is not really educated about a financial product that is complicated for them to use.
Okay, thank you very much. I hear you very well. I think you're really, I run a store, and most times my staff will say, oh, we didn't get the alerts, because they trust that beep sound, definitely. Yeah. So I think that is what we see in our climb. That beep sound actually that every retailer or any market woman will always want in this financial system. Okay, now I would like to ask also, you mentioned something about our Nigerian environment. We have this unpredictability about a lot of things with regards to power, patchy internet, and all that. So how do you design products that work in these realities?
Yeah, so today, very importantly, when we design solutions, we have to design them for bandwidth. It is not in all locations you are in Nigeria that have good internet. I'm fortunate enough to work in 2 of the 4 top telecoms companies in Nigeria, and I can tell you, we're pushing for service quality, but not all locations have the same quality of internet. But what must be realized is that irrespective of internet, people can make phone calls. It takes a technology to make them make phone calls, and you can reach anybody anywhere. And so when you build a solution, you need to have that perspective and build to support that. And I'll tell a quick story about what happened around this. There was this particular story about a young startup in Nigeria that built an app that could process payments without internet. So you see, we're already thinking in that direction. And got a venture capitalist or a venture firm to invest in that small startup. And when they asked, what is it? They said, oh, they built it to process payments offline, and they built it with a church computer, and they just shut it down and said, this won't scale. Same week in Silicon Valley, somebody got $3 million for a mobile app that reminds people to drink water. And so when you ask yourself, is it in Nigeria where we have sun that you need to build an app to remind somebody to drink water? No. But what was important for our locally lived realities was ignored. 6 months down the line, the company that got $3 million was dead. The one that was rejected is processing $10 million every month today in the same country. And so let us focus on our own realities when we are building solutions. Let's look at what is a pain for us. That patchy internet is a $1 million or $1 billion industry or solution if we look deep into it. That power issues that we have is $1 billion opportunity if we look into it. And when we build for Africa like this, there's no way the world will not recognize it.
Thank you very much, Paul, for that. I really appreciate that, because I can see that this was how you really excelled in the Nine mobile payments banking system service that you built. It was an indigenous product, and of course, it scaled very well in Nigeria. At least I could remember that when I saw the payment service rolled out in Nigeria, a lot of telcos were still behind, and this was already working in the market. So I think you're very right. It has to be tailored to the realities at what we have on ground in Nigeria. Okay, thank you so much for that. I'd like to ask, we're talking about intelligence, and street data is a fascinating concept, right? And I know you said something in one of your programs that I heard of. You said that you can't find a heartbeat of the customer in big data dashboards. So what does that look like in banking with regards to smart banking products?
Oh, good. So this is something that we really need to look as we go into the future of banking, because we've made a lot of decisions as businesses from what we see as big data. But big data always shows you what they did, what happened when they transacted, how they transacted. That's what it shows you, just what. You can't find experience in big data. But street data, which is the lived realities of how people use the financial products or platforms, or how they avoid using it, is what you really need. And you need to blend that street data to big data to get the kind of insight you need to build products and platforms that can connect, that can convert, and that can be adopted, that will get adopted by these users. because street data will show you, street data is always greater than big data, because big data will show you insights, but street data will show you experience. And in building those products and platforms, you need to combine insight and experience so that you can build what really works and what really matters and what really is relevant.
Thank you very much for that, Paul. So now, this now brings me to ask another question. What roles do we see in partnerships with the telcos, the retailers, the community groups, the organizations in this whole financial sector? What roles, what partnership do we expect? To enrich, the kind of street data that you're talking about. What partnership should we expect from this?
Okay. So that's what I think we're trying to do today in the country with open banking, and I explained that. So today, the information is siloed. Fintechs operate in silos, banks operate in silos, then even when you have bank-fintech partnerships, there's still silos. So it's a problem. And you could hear that clearly in terms of the many hops we had to go through when we spoke. I think Mr. Moore was on the panel when we spoke about the hops people have to go through when you cross payments or remittances. But what many don't understand is that the telecom companies are sitting on massive, big data, from which you can see a person's lifestyle, a person's habits, an individual's movement, an individual's preferences, where the person goes. There's just so much you can get from data. Why the bank has transactional data, what the person is buying, where they are going to buy those things, right? All these systems need to come together. Now, these are two indices here. When you open a bank account, we talk about KYC. That KYC there is statutory KYC. It doesn't tell you anything real about that customer. It's just statutory. Have BVN, have NIN, do facial verification, you're on board on the platform, because central bank wants that to be done. So that's statutory. But we must come to the point where we add, on top of that statutory data, the living reality data. So that is the second part. So when we build for the future, have the statutory data, but you also have to have the lived reality data combined in one platform. That's the only way you'll be able to get true insights about who the person is, who the individual is, what they do, where they go, how they live, how they interact, and a lot of other information. So when it comes to that, the collaboration will need to move from the way it is today to the telecoms companies, the banks, the regulators, being fused, the crypto companies, the blockchain technology, being fused on a series of open banking APIs that are available for anybody to plug in. I can come on an API on the telco side and see 360 about the person. I can come on the API from the regulatory side or NIP side or NI side or BVN side and see the statutory requirements, and I know what and who that person is. That's true KYC. And that's today why they are gaming the system to a large extent. People are having more than one BVN, right? So we're enforcing all these rules, but these things are still happening. People are creating account farms where they register 12,000 accounts and are moving money so that those who are chasing after the money will go around in a wild goose chase. So we need to deal with all these things, and that collaboration among all these entities is what will really help us all working together.
All right. Thank you very much, Paul, for answering that question. Now, for most financial institutions, scale, ROI are thing on the mind for the investors, the board members, shareholders. So how do you, convince, or tailor products to predict the realities here and still making sense, business sense to them? How do you do that? As a CIO.
All right. So I think there are situations where digital transformation is not properly interpreted. And so I've seen many times, the board of some companies, saying they've invested so much in technology, but they are not getting the return on investment in technology. And in two organizations where we turned that around after I joined was the way the digital transformation was going on. People confuse digitization for digital transformation, and they are two different things. Digitization first is you taking a traditional manual process and digitizing it and put it in on the screen. That is not transformation. You have just digitized the manual process and put it on the screen. The process is still manual. The difference is that it is now on the screen. That is digitization. Digital transformation is rewiring the entire thing, reworking the entire thing. And three things come in there. You have to optimize, then you have to digitize, and then you have to automate. And so when you do it properly, there's a transformation that happens. Many organizations think they are doing well until they properly do digital transformation. In my own company, when we did it, we grew 1,000% within 6 months after we launched a new set of things we did, and after transforming the efforts, we grew 1,000%, and it was amazing. Right? We were able to deliver products that were stalled, in another organization, products that were stalled for 3 years. And this was an international organization. We were building a global payment processing platform, right? And it lasted for 3 years. People were building, but it wasn't being done well. And in 3 months, those platforms were delivered, processing payments in the US, Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, and the rest. So, but what happened? We saw revenue move 1,000% within a short time. And so the talk of we're not seeing return on investment, the return on investment came immediately, and we started seeing it. In another case, another company, the organization has spent 300 million for a solution that was so difficult to use. It was imported, it was so expensive, it was so complicated that they had to train the staff 5 times to understand how to use the solution, and they still did not understand. You can imagine the frustration. What did we do? We designed it for how it should work for us right here in Nigeria by ourselves. Built it with ourselves, right? And by the time we turned it on, it was a procurement solution, doing bidding, procurement, requisition, all of it automated end to end, transparency and all. They dropped the 300 million solution for what it didn't even take us 5 million to build.
Yeah, thank you.
And now they're scaling that across the entire group because it solved the problem. It solved the local reality. And so when it comes to return on investment, you have to build right. You have to build for transformation and not for just digitization. You have to combine those 3 things. Optimize by reviewing entirely how you operate and how you get things done. Digitize by moving and streamlining the manual process into digitized process, and then automating by building the automated workflows into it. That is the way you will make the return on investment in terms of technology.
Yeah, right. Thanks. I think for every of our CIOs here, they're taking a cue from what you have said. So to my final questions, I'd like to ask, where do you see the biggest opportunity for smart banking in Nigeria in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, the big opportunity is in personalization, and especially personalization with AI. And I'd like to stay at this point that working with AI is not a chat, it is an art. And I've seen many organizations struggle to actually implement AI in their business because they are seeing AI and working with AI like a chat. It is not a chat, it is an art. And so when it comes to personalization, that art, which I call the art of collaborative intelligence, is what you need to bring into the business, because the humans have the why, but the AI system have the what. So let AI systems focus on the heavy lifting and humans focus on the heavy listening. And so in the next 5 years from now, in terms of what we now see, personalization will become so much that the engagement with a banking system will not even feel like you're engaging a bank. It will become part of embedded systems that flow along your life. And so whether it comes to you wanting to pay fees for your child or you need a loan, you won't have to get into a problem for the system to make available what you need for you. And that personalization, especially when it comes to language barriers, will be gone, because today we have USSD, we have IVR, but it's one-way traffic. It's one-way communication. They call you to talk to you, but you cannot interact further in terms of real-life engagement with them. But the AI systems will bring a personalization where you talk to these banking systems as if it's a real person there. I'm not talking about chatbots that give you canned responses. I'm talking about a chat. It's an AI system that behaves like a human being, responds to you like a human being, recommends to you like a human being, guides you like a human being, but is not a human being.
All right. Yeah. I guess we saw something like that from Cisco today, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So Thank you very much, Paul, for that insight on where we see ourselves in smart banking in the next few years. So, my dear audience, I don't know if we have any questions from anyone in the house. Yes, sir. Please. The mic will come to you.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I must say that our speaker has spoken quite well, and I find myself nodding my head when he was speaking because I could understand where he was coming from. I'm glad to be part of this success story because you know what? You may not know. I was part of the people that implemented or that coordinated the implementation of the
I got you, baby. I got you, baby. baby. I got you, baby.
Up on our feet. Can we just rise up on our feet, please? Thank you very much. Can we rise? Can we rise? Can we rise? I want to see everybody standing, please. If you are in now, standing. Can you sit back again? Can you rise up again? Okay, jam those hands together for yourselves. So for the moderator for this section, we have Sonia Israani, the CIO Africa Country Representative for Nigeria. Please jam those hands together for her, please.
I'm so sorry to be the one standing between you and your lunch. I've kept you guys here for such a long time, and thank you for your tolerance. So I'm going to make this really short. I think the panelists have already been introduced, so I'll save time on that. But I'll just go straight to the questions. We're talking about the hustler mentality. So maybe I should ask Oni Ayo, the CEO for Kala. Kala won the marketing $50,000 worth of marketing from CIO Africa last year. So tell me, what is one thing that formal banks get wrong regarding to how Nigerians manage their money?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. I think one of the major things that I've seen around that a lot of banks get wrong is first that the way that the people use their money, right? People need access to money, and so they need money on the go. For example, you've seen a lot of, this is where a lot of startups like ourselves have, found a missing piece to be able to play in. And it's that access to your money, right, to be able to actually, transact, right? Being able to, get the alerts that you've, sent the money or you've received the money. That's basically one of the things that some banks have gotten wrong in the past, and literally that's what created the space for even the likes of OPay and MoneyPoint to be able to come in and even play in. The second thing that I think they've got wrong as well is people actually looking for ways to increase whatever they earn, right? And again, you have startups like Piggyvest and others who have democratized what savings and investment looks like, right? And so they've given platforms to people who ordinarily didn't have access to be able to invest their money or grow their revenue or their income in the past. And then I think the third one would be, I think I mentioned payment and savings, and then obviously savings also sort of overlaps with investment, right? So being able to have access to platforms where you can democratize what investment looks like. Before now, I think the big banks focused on the big boys that had the money, right? That's who they give to. It's funny because with banks, you sort of have to prove that you don't need the money to get the money, right? And so you have to bring collaterals and you have to bring all of that. But really, and that's what a lot of times we've gotten wrong, right? And this is what has created that opportunity for startups to play in. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So I'm going to speak from the inclusion aspects. The previous session, which was the session before this fireside chat, I really enjoyed that session. It spoke a lot about trusts. It spoke about capacity building and then meeting the users where they are about their realities. So I think that's where most of these institutions get it wrong. So they are so focused on innovation. They're so focused on building nice applications. They're so focused on bringing new inventions, new innovations, but then they don't really understand the users. At the end of the day, you're still working with the same users, those who understand technology, who are confident using technology. And then we have those who do not really understand the banking system. So they rather go through the informal processes. So I think what these institutions need to do now is think about the users. Those within rural areas, communities, how do they meet their needs? How do they meet them where they are? So they expand their customer base, and those people will be able to interact with them in the own language they understand. So let's think about inclusion. Let's think about awareness, not just innovation. Then let's think about safety and better access that provides value to the user.
Yeah, and anything else any of the panelists would like to add?
Thank you very much. For traditional banks, they have a lot of data. Maybe that's where big data came from. But this data is not overly useful for understanding hustlers. They don't have hustler data. Say, for instance, you want to apply for a loan. They may ask you for your pay slip for the past 6 months. Hustlers don't have stable salary, right? They hustle. They don't have one single job. They have multiple. So the way to look at hustlers may be different. How often do they buy airtime, for instance? How often do they do other stuff? When you put all of those data together, the cash flow that comes, the remittances they get from their, who they hustle for, family, side gigs, and all of that, it may not be regular, it may not be linear. You study the pattern. So that data may help you make better decisions, and in fact, you can unlock a lot of value. Another ignorance of traditional banks is that they think that, banking hustlers are costly and unprofitable, because they are applying the wrong business model to hustlers. There are so many other ways, but let me stop at those two so that my colleague can add more. Thank you. Okay, very correct. Just to add to what he said, I think one thing I can say traditional banks get wrong is they kind of assume predictability. Yeah, like everyone earns salary at the end of the month, so they build applications. Most of the banks. So let me use that caveat because a number of banks now have fintechs. Yeah, so fintechs have flexibilities. Yeah, they build their digital rails. A number of them build their digital rails, mimicking the traditional Isusu savings. That's the hustler savings mentality. But for traditional banks, they assume that, like he said, you need to bring payslip 6 months to get a loan. How many Keke Napep rider will have a payslip for 6 months to get a loan? So when they are building their apps, their products, most times they don't build it to mimic the traditional hustler mentality. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Obiora. As a CISO, what is one unique cybersecurity challenge that is unique to Nigeria, and how do you build that culture of trust to people who do not know much about cybersecurity, who are the hustlers?
Okay, thank you very much. I think in our line of business, trust is a very important currency. Yeah, and everything we do is about building trust for customers to bank with us. And one thing I would say is very unique for us in our own space is a key cybersecurity challenge unique to our own space and our own market and to the Nigeria hustler market is social engineering. Yeah, because these days hackers hardly hack systems; they hack humans. They hack human beings. Yeah, that trust you have. Nigerians trust a lot. Yeah, you believe people a lot, so they leverage and exploit that trust to carry out identity theft, carry out social engineering, phishing, and the likes. All those are some of the challenges that we face as a security lead in fintechs and in even traditional banks. So for us, it's more like meeting the end users where cyber criminals also meet them on their phones, their WhatsApp, and all. Create jingles in their local languages, explaining how they can stay secure and all that. Creating a story around it instead of that fear mentality. So we've been able to tell stories, partner with community influencers that can translate some of our jingles into their local languages and help them with tips on how to stay secure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next, I'll come back to you. Many financial services fail because they are designed for an office, not for the street. What is the biggest design mistake you've seen in the fintech space, and how did you avoid it at Kala?
Okay, so that's an interesting question because my background is in human thinking, right? So psychology and basically understanding why people buy, for example, why people buy on the internet, why people buy or why people make certain decisions. And when you're designing for any products, really, like even if you remove if you take away digital products, right, even a chair, like when you design a chair that has 3 legs, right, immediately the human mind thinks that this thing is probably going to fall me, right, if I sit on it, right? So when you're designing, right, it has to be woven into your product from day one, right, that you want to evoke trust. So how you do that really is by one of the things they mentioned, right, speaking the language of the user, right, which is basically dumbing it down. So there are a lot of terms that you can speak in. If I say fishing, for example, someone else might think that I'm talking about an actual fish, right? But it's spelled slightly differently, and obviously it means completely different things. So you need to basically tone down the language, right, in which you're talking to these people in. And then second thing is that I think we've done, right, really is that when you're onboarding, right, we also sort of force you to go through that security or protection, right, for your own self, right? So you create things like your Face ID, or if you have passwords, or you have fingerprints and things like that. It is an important part of your process, right? It's not optional. Some product will say you can skip this and come back and do it later. For payment and for for a product where people are keeping their sweat, right? Their investment, all the things that they've toiled to do. You don't want to be the guy who, then build something that is easily breakable. So essentially, the point is that you build for trust, right? But you also speak the language of trust, and you also make sure to don't tone down, don't use big grammars, and don't try to sound smart and all of that. Speak like if we say, don't share your password, don't just say don't share your password. But why shouldn't I share my password? Educate. Don't invoke fear into the hands of the users.
Wow, very nice. You must educate all your users. So I'll go back to you, Mr. Dare. As a CEO, how do you identify grassroots behaviors, and what is the key to making profitable businesses out of what appears to be an unstructured system? Because from the question, they say that hustler economy thrives in those informal, unstructured organizations and market stalls.
You have to be very involved where the action is happening. Many times we design systems for the informal sector as an armchair reflector. We sit on an armchair, cross our legs, and we think we know what happened. We build solutions from top down, and we push it to the market and expect that that will work. We don't even respond to real-time changes in those informal sectors and the market dynamics. So my friend Ayo says his background is a human thing, and he would know about ethnography, where you are immersed in the experience of the hustler. How did they think? What's their interest? Many times the priorities, the designers don't have an interest in the hustler, they have their own priority. Let's take government, for instance. Government want to collect taxes. They want to prevent money laundering, and that's their priority. The hustler just want to get value. He want to settle. Now, then government brings about the fact that banks must always begin with KYC. Know your customer, know your customer's business. Who you be, why do I care? Cash doesn't need to know who you are before we transact business. It is when I begin to use card and all of those layers of complex technology that begin to bring all this there. So the first thing to do is to nail it. What do I need to understand about this market? What is the pain points that are going through, and how can I solve those pain points? From a very simple, basic things. The hustler doesn't require a lot. In fact, their needs are very minimal. Okay? When you do that, you nail it. When you now nail it, you now scale it. Because it will not be just one person. You'll see the patterns repeating in different communities, different individuals. So you scale it at that level. You are not trying to bring something new. By the way, is why we are new usual. The usual thing that hustlers do. Okay? We then bring some newness to it. All right? In a way that we're not really changing their behavior. They are the ones changing us to adapt and be flexible to their own needs. When we do that, we can then sell it away. Look at other communities. I'll give an example. So for 10 years, we've been giving microloans to a community. Let me not mention the community, but a market community. So we first told them, go and register an association, and everybody belongs there. So we are lending to the association and not to individuals. So maybe we want to start with 10 million naira, bring 30 individuals that we can lend to. But if any one of you defaults, nobody gets in this group. So it's a collective. Now, even within that collectivity, you still have what Paul referred to, something interesting he mentioned as personalization, in which case, even though I belong to a group, I have my own idiosyncrasies. So my privacy, my confidentiality is important to me, and therefore I have to deal with it at that level. So those are the kind of ways we first nail it, understand the dynamics of the community, then you scale it to using the pattern that have emerged to other communities, and you sell it away to even a much bigger group. Then you see the profit. But it doesn't happen the way it happens in banks. You might find that fintechs like OPay, MoneyPoint, they may not even be making that profit right now, but they're creating value. And when it comes, it will be like a tornado. It will wipe away some of those big players. Thank you.
Yeah, Obiora, do you agree? You might not be making, but you passed that, right? Okay, I'll get to you, Angela. Darren mentioned pain points, right? So apart from access to mobile phones, what is the biggest pain point for people to adopt fintech technology around?
All right, thank you very much. So when we talk about inclusion, most times we celebrate access. One of the sessions today, there was an interesting data where one of the speakers spoke about 170 million users having access to mobile. But then it's not just about access, it's way beyond access. Is it meaningful access, or is it just access? They have a device, they're connected to the internet. How are they utilizing it? Is it meaningful connectivity? So it's way beyond access, like you asked. We have other issues. We have trust, we have safety. People have access, but they don't trust the systems enough, they don't trust these platforms enough to want to go on board. So that's why you see that the informal saving system thrives. They don't trust the platform, they feel like they are not safe. And sometimes safety does not come because they experience it. Sometimes it's perceived threats. It happened to an individual, it happened to a neighbor. Then it might affect me, it might happen to me. And these are the issues. That's why people are reluctant to get on board, and that's why the inclusion issue still exists. There is still a divide, there is still a gap. So if we can fill the issues of safety, trust, then people will be confident enough to come on board. And another issue we need to look at is when there are issues, what's the resolution process like? Because it's still part of trust. People get issues most times when they are on board, when they try to interact with fintechs, and the resolution process is not really nice. They don't